guys, David Crowley, writer-director of the Gray State Project, and for tonight I thought I'd give you a little bit of the behind-the-scenes for what I'm working on for Gray State The Rise, which is our documentary. I'm working in Final Cut Pro 7, which is a little bit out of date, but I've been working on this project for 2 years, so it's been kind of backed up. We get the Gray State team, which is to say me and Danny Mason at this point. Here's what we got going. So this is Gray State The Rise. The way the documentary is being organized right now is we've got like the hook scene, which is the first 4 minutes of the documentary, which goes over basically what the documentary is going to be about, who's going to be in it, and what the basic language of the documentary is going to be. Most of the documentary is based around this quote, which is property, personality, and liberty. This is man. These become the systems by which we must be enslaved by the globalists, by the world banksters, by, you can take your pick, whoever's really at fault here. These are the systems by which we have to be enslaved if they're going to successfully subdue us. The first system of enslavement then becomes property, so that was system one. Our money, basically, and things that we own, and how these things, we essentially don't own them. Our money is based on nothing, our property is owned by someone else, and most of the time, whoever holds the loans that we take out to purchase our property, they tend to own our property more than we do. So System 1 will explain how our money is fake, our property is owned by someone else, and how we're essentially enslaved by these systems. Now, System 2, which is personality, moves into more of the educational subversion that we're experiencing with the public education system in particular. So System 2, personality, is more like educational subversion and how we've been trained away from that through generational gaps. And these systems are being used to turn us into a willing slave culture, which is essentially the main point of Gray State, is that we're no longer an independent warrior class that we used to be, that would be vigilant and fight for our freedoms and our liberty. Now, System 3, which is going back to Bastiat's property, personality, and liberty, which basically describes the ways that we will be enslaved. And this is where it gets hypothetical a little bit, because with System 2, you can document how the educational system is being subverted. Or in System 1, you can document how the Federal Reserve is creating this fiat monetary system that cannot be sustained by any means. And these things are documented. Now, System 3, we're still able to go to Starbucks right now, so it's very hard to explain to people. It's going to be explained how you are, in fact, in sort of an open-air prison. They don't need to put you in a prison to know everything about you and surveil you and keep tabs on you, because electronic sort of systems that just keep tabs on you wherever you go. And this is how System 3 is going to be enacted to eventually separate those who dissent from those who are going to go along with the system. For those of you who are familiar with it, this would be the red, blue, and yellow lists. The yellow list would be fine because there is no threat to the state, but the blue list will end up being in the camps, and the red list will just be straight executed. We know that it's based on a documentation that we've seen. So here, in System 3, you'll see how this is sort of mapped out from a globalist perspective. This is how it's going to happen. And then, of course, you see System Failure, which is the end of Gray State The Rise, and provides some very valuable solutions to the problems, the 3 systems of enslavement that we're facing. And I'm not going to show you that. But what I will do is I'll go through and I'll show you some very brief clips of what I've been doing with The Rise. And here you can see how it works with the Final Cut Pro 7.
There was a window opening. Economic crisis and a constitutional crisis coming to a head. We're going to be going through some shit.
Look at history and acknowledge that things like this can happen, things like this have happened, things like this are happening right now.
The Gray State is a part of this Orwellian nightmare that's being set up.
Their vision for what's next is a global Fed and even more power.
The potential complete collapse of America, of a global economy.
One world government, new world order.
It's real. A lot of people are realizing it, and more people are going to have to.
So you see a little bit of our music that we've got lined up. We've got some great musical sponsors. Thomas Rice composed the track you just heard. You get the basic gist that it's not going to be this PG-13 sort of documentary. This is going to be like, here's what's going on, and you can care about it if you have the time for it. No, this is going to be bad. It's going to be rated R. So here's a little bit about what Gray State The Rise is really about. Slave-minded sense that we slip into. and it's based on the ideas of statism, the idea that there exists some sort of, it's almost like a religion in itself. Like, they will denigrate the ideas of religious thought, like, you're stupid for believing in a god, but then they will turn around and believe in this sort of artificial edifice that has like these temples, like governmental buildings with these pillars and stuff, and inside these temples exist people who have a greater authority than you and a greater right to life than you, and so forth. And this is, in fact, statism. This is a disease that people are afflicted with, and it's very hard to tell people about this who don't already know, but that's just what we're in.
The gray state is a symptom. The disease is statism. The morality that we expect ourselves to adhere to, the standards of behavior and conduct. Like when you were taught in kindergarten, don't hit and don't steal, it wasn't unless you're a cop or an IRS agent. You know, and when you learned thou shalt not kill, it wasn't unless your dear leader gives you a gun and a badge and a one-way ticket to the other side of the world. Those were moral absolutes, but what we are doing now is institutionalizing them in government and creating this moral exception for people that have the socially granted monopoly on the initiation of force over a given geographical area by calling it government and pretending that it's good for us.
So there you see a little bit of Adam Kokesh talking about the ideas of statism. And what I haven't done yet is I haven't gone through and implemented the B-roll, and that's kind of where I'm at now. So it's kind of like a polish-up stage. So in System 1, here's what you got.
So that's why it is we're in such a deficit crisis and they spend so much money. It's popular to spend, it's unpopular to tax. So what we do, we let the Federal Reserve paper it over.
The problem is Congress, the federal bureaucracy, and the military bureaucracies. And remember what runs those things. Cash. When you fly into Ronald Reagan National Airport, as you're getting ready to land, if you look towards the Washington Monument, you will see this enormous mountain of cash. The problem with that mountain of cash is it's a magnet for all the wrong people. Everybody in the Beltway exists to get their hands on some of that cash. It essentially creates a situation in which everyone is for...
Now, System 2 gets a little bit more sinister. System 2 is about how we've been subverted as a culture, both morally, mentally, and educationally, to go along with this system and not complain, not object, and not even be aware of it, and also just think that it's normal. So it's about educational gaps, and much of that boils down to the military and how it's being conditioned to just think that it's always doing the right thing, it's always justified in its own actions.
It's actually my older brother who we talked about joining. We had a lot of conversations about the bravado of current U.S. military forces, the attitude if you ever go into the military. It's definitely about psychological conditioning. It's the idea that when life and death is on the line, you cannot afford to believe anything but the fact that you are the biggest, baddest force on the face of the earth. But they say, you know, you gotta walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, because I'm the meanest motherfucker in the valley.
So you see a little bit about how soldiers are trying to think like it's cool to go to war, and it's cool to kill people, and how this sort of perpetuates this system by which those who are pulling the strings get to use the military created by the greatest economy in the world to go and take other people's resources, and how soldiers will never, through a system of reward versus punishment, they're never going to question this system because there's more reward to going along with the system than for questioning it. So you go along with it, you get perks, you know, like discounts on your car insurance, you get to go to the commissary, you get tax-free groceries, you get praised by most of the public who is apparently not qualified to criticize your actions, and so the White House will whitewash your behavior and make you a war hero no matter what you've done, and you're branded as heroic regardless of your activities, what you've actually done. Here's a little preview for System 3, which is the Liberty, which is basically how they're going to use the law as a weapon to come and finally collect you. They've collected your property, they've taken your mind, and now they're going to come and collect you. It gets into how the sort of entitled slave class will be eventually turned against those who will not go along with the system.
Well, what's suspicious activity? Again, this sort of a running nightmare that we're sending into people are not engaging in critical thinking skills, so suspicious activity is intentionally vague, Because hell, to different people, anything's going to be suspicious. Those who have become completely and utterly dependent upon the government for literally life to live, with food stamps, welfare. Say what you want about the compassion behind these programs. The fact of the matter is you're creating dependency. And so it's very easy to turn the masses on these groups of people who are independent. These militias generally are people who know how to provide for themselves. They're survivalists. They're people who know how to live off the land. We can't have that. We don't want other people learning to become independent. So the powers that be want to discourage you from learning about self-sufficiency and independence and be fearful of these groups that are. They want to attach to us these labels and social stigmas so that the general public is going, I don't want anything to do with that.
We see these people being portrayed as being on the fringe, unstable, or even dangerous. And what we're doing is we're making dissent socially unacceptable.
Usually small pockets of resistance as well.
I'll stop it there because you guys don't deserve that much of a preview of the documentary. You'll have to wait till it comes out. Check it out then. But it's a very scary scenario where the masses of people who have been trained to accept entitlements and vote for the lesser of two evils perpetually support these wars, and they've been trained against caring about people. And so it'll be very easy to turn these entitled masses onto people who are independent of the state, and this is a way to get everyone on the grid. I'm probably a couple of weeks away from having a rough cut done. The music, voiceover, visual effects, graphics will all start to come together all at once, and this documentary will be wrapped up pretty quickly. Getting the DVDs produced and then getting it online for you guys to see. And I can't give you an approximate timeline for that, but it's pretty close. We're getting pretty close to being done with this thing. So after this, we're going forward with a feature film, and that's not something that we're definitely looking forward to because we've got a lot of cool stuff planned here. Definitely be watching the Facebook page for Gray State The Rise because the documentary is going to be coming out hopefully by the end of the year, and we'll have it out to you guys to be able to watch it. This is the thing we'll be able to send on to your friends and family and hopefully wake people up. It's going to be cutting, it's going to be hard hitting, it's going to point some fingers to the people, and I'm not just talking about the politicians responsible, I'm talking about the people who voted for those politicians. And yes, that it's thunder going on outside my window right now, and I didn't plan anything, but it's pretty dramatic. Keep spreading the message, keep paying attention to Gray State because it is coming.